Hello, everyone. Afreil Chanukah, and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah share. We are holding in Mishnah Berurah Chelik Daled, and Mir Hashem. Today we will be learning Daf Reish Amid Aleph. We pick up today on Kuf Tzamek Tes Amid Beis with the beginning of a new siman, Siman Shin Mem Vav, Dine Eruvin Min HaTorah. The halachas of Eruvin Min HaTorah Midaraisa, Ubay Gimel Seifim, and here we have 3 seifim. So today's material, Baruch Hashem, is a little bit less complex than yesterday's material. It does have its own shares of complexities, but without further ado, I want to get started. So our learning should be a schus for Achenu Beis Yisrael, B'chal Makom Shehem. Our learning should be a schus for Chayla Yisrael. They should all have a refuah shalema. Says the Mechaber Siman Shin Mem Vav Sif Aleph. Min HaTorah. Halacha daraisa. Ein chayiv, a person is not chayiv for being over on the malacha of haitzah, ella, only, b'moitzi umachnis, if he brings something out or he brings something in, v'zoyrek, or he throws something, umoishit, or he extends something, merishos hayachid l'rishos harabim, from a rishos hayachid, a bona fide rishos hayachid, Lirishos harabim, to a bona fide rishos harabim, oime rishos harabim, or from a bona fide rishos harabim, lirishos hayachid, to a bona fide rishos hayachid. So what is the Mechaber telling me here? The Mechaber is telling me what the Isser Daraisa of Haitzah me rishos lirishos is. What exactly is the Isser Daraisa to transfer something from one type of rishos to another type of rishos on Shabbos? Says the Mechaber, what is the Isser Daraisa? And he gives me over here 4 terms. Moitzi, to take something out. Machnis, to bring something in. V'zoyrek, to throw something. Umoishit, and to extend something. And you have to be doing one of these 4 acts, me rishos hayachid, from a rishos hayachid, li rishos harabim, to a rishos harabim, Oy me rishos harabim, or from a rishos harabim to a rishos hayachid. Let's take a look here at the Mishnah Berurah. Now, the first 2 terms that the Mechaber uses, moitzi or umachdis, to bring something out or to bring something in. That is very easily understood. Moitzi, to take something out, means you are in a rishos hayachid, you pick something up in rishos hayachid, so that you have made an akira, you have lifted something up, you have uprooted something in the Rishos HaYachid, and you are moitzi it, you take it out. What does that mean, you take it out? You're holding the thing that you picked up, and you walk out from the Rishos HaYachid to the Rishos HaRabim, so that you are moitzi the chayfetz that you're holding, the item that you're holding, and then you take it to Rishos HaRabim and you put it down, so you make a hanocha in Rishos HaRabim. You have now completed a complete malacha daraisa. You made an akira in Rishos HaYachid, you picked something up in Rishos HaYachid, you were moitzi it, you took it out, you picked yourself up and you walked, and you went out the door, you took it out to Rishos HaRabim, and you made a hanocha, you put it down in Rishos HaRabim. That's it, it's a daraisa. Machnis, if you bring something in, you're outside in the Rishos HaRabim. You pick something up in the Rishos HaRabim so that you made an akira in the Rishos HaRabim, and you are machnis it. You bring it in to the Rishos HaYachid. How do you bring it in? You walk with it into the Rishos HaYachid, and you put it down in the Rishos HaYachid. You just did an Issa Daraisa. You did Haitzah, really, you did Hachnasa, you brought it in, you didn't bring it out, but Moitzi Machnis, same difference. You transferred an object from outside in the Rishos HaRabim to inside in the Rishos HaYachid. And how did you do it? By picking it up and walking with it into the other rishos. Those are the first 2 terms here. Moitzi and Machnis. Zoyrek, to throw something, also very easily understood. You're inside the house. You're in a rishos hayachid, or it could be a fenced-in yard, right? A rishos hayachid doesn't have to be a house. It could be a yard that's surrounded by mechitzas 10 tefachim tall. So you're in the yard. You pick up something in the Rishos HaYachid, you pick up a ball, and you throw it over the fence out to the Rishos HaRabim, and it lands in the Rishos HaRabim. You made an akira, you picked it up in the Rishus HaYachid, you were zorik it, you threw it out of the Rishus HaYachid, out to the Rishus HaRabim, and it landed in the Rishus HaRabim. That's your hanacha. You made a hanacha in Rishus HaRabim by throwing it out to Rishus HaRabim. So that is also a complete Isser Daraisa. Vice versa. You're out in the Rishus HaRabim, you pick something up, and you throw it into the window of the house. So you threw it from the Rishus HaRabim, you made an akira in Rishus HaRabim, you threw it into the Rishus HaYachid, it landed in the Rishus HaYachid, that's your hanacha in the Rishus HaYachid. So there we have three forms of the Issa Daraisa. The last term that the Mechaber used was moishit. Now moishit means to extend something. Says the Mishnah Berurah Katan Aleph u'moishit. Hainu, what does moishit mean? In this case, hainu, shegufay oimed b'rishus echad, your guf, your body, is remaining in one rishus, whatever rishus it was in. U'moishit biyadai hachefetz l'rishus acher. And you extend your hand, so you're standing in the Rishus HaYachid, you pick up something in the Rishus HaYachid, you extend your hand out to the Rishus HaRabim, and you put it down. Or you're standing in the Rishus HaRabim, you pick up something in the Rishus HaRabim, you extend your hand into the Rishus HaYachid, but you stay outside in the Rishus HaRabim, and you put it down. That is also a complete malacha, Daraisa of Moitzi Me Rishus L'Rishus. You made an akira in one Rishus, you extended it into the next Rishus, and you put it down, and you made a hanacha in the next Rishus. So all of these are Isurei Daraisa. Says the Mishnah Berurah weiter, V'ayin l'kamam b'simin shin mem zayin b'Mishnah Berurah sif katan ches. He tells us to take a look further on in shin mem zayin. Where's Hashem? Bez Hashem Yisparach. We'll get there. Le'inyan, when it comes to the topic of moishit me rishus hayachid l'rishus hayachid derech rishus harabim. An interesting case. What if you have one rishus hayachid, and then there's a rishus harabim, and then there's another rishus hayachid? Now, it's going to be a little bit difficult to figure out exactly what this case is, because he's talking about a case where you have two Rishus HaYachids and you have a Rishus HaRabim between them. And what you're doing is you're picking up something in one Rishus HaYachid, you're extending it through the Rishus HaRabim and putting it down in the other Rishus HaYachid. To figure out exactly what that case is, because remember, a Rishus HaRabim is 16 amos wide. So it's not a house on one side of the street and a house on the other side of the street, but you could have two houses very close to each other with a section of Rishus HaRabim in between, but whatever it is, we'll discuss that in Shin Mem Zayin. So that is the opening shot of Siman Shin Mem Vav. The opening shot of Shin Mem Vav is very, very simple. The Mechaber is just giving us the Surei Daraisa of being Moitzi Me Rishus L'Rishus. And the Isid Daraisa of being Moitzi Me Rishus L'Rishus is comprised of making an Akira in one Rishus, transferring the item that you made an Akira on, the item that you picked up, transferring it to a different Rishus, so from a Rishus HaYachid to a Rishus HaRabim, or a Rishus HaRabim to a Rishus HaYachid, and making a Hanacha in the other Rishus. That is the Isid Daraisa. Says the Mechaber weiter, the Chachamim asru, the Chazal aserd, an Isid Rabbanan, mikarmelis l'rishus hayachid, to transfer something from a karmelis, a rishus Rabbanan, l'rishus hayachid to a rishus hayachid, oy l'rishus harabim, or from a karmelis to a rishus harabim, oy mehem l'karmelis, or from a rishus hayachid to a karmelis, or from a rishus harabim to a karmelis. So in the Isid Daraisa, we're talking about rishuyos daraisa. Midaraisa, there are only three types of rishuyos. There's a Rishus HaYachid, loosely translated private domain. There's a Rishus HaRabim, loosely translated public domain. And there's a Makom P'tur, a place that's exempt, right? There's a fourth Rishus, which is a Rishus Rabbanan. That's the Carmelis that we've spoken about at length already. So, Midaraisa, you're not allowed to transfer something. You're not allowed to be Moitzi Me Rishus L'Rishus from one Rishus Daraisa to the other Rishus Daraisa. From a Rishus HaYachid to a Rishus HaRabim, from a Rishus HaRabim to a Rishus HaYachid. Midarabanan, Chazal said, if you have a Carmelis, you're not allowed to transfer something from the Carmelis to a Rishus HaYachid, or from the Carmelis to a Rishus HaRabim, or from a Rishus HaYachid to a Carmelis, or from a Rishus HaRabim to a Carmelis. So here we have an Isid Rabbanan. Says the Mishnah Berurah is cotton base. V'chachamim asru. Now, He just gives us over here the background of this Issa D'Rabbanan. Not really the background, the underpinnings of this Issa D'Rabbanan, says the Mishnah Berurah. A Carmelis, Tehu Damyak Tzas L'Rishus Harabim, a Carmelis is somewhat similar to a Rishus Harabim. What does he mean by that? Well, when we look at a Carmelis, it's not a Rishus HaYachid. Says the Mishnah Berurah, She'ein Mechitzos. A Carmelis is not enclosed. It's not Mukaf Mechitzos. It's a big open area, like our rolling plains of grain that I keep on mentioning, right? So it's a big, wide open area. It's not fenced in. So in that regard, it's not a Rishus HaYachid, right? It's not fenced in. Umikamakam ain't a Rishus Harabim, but it's also not a Rishus Harabim. Because we know that a Rishus Harabim has to be something that's doimel diglei midbar. It has to be something that's similar to the thoroughfares of the Machane Yisrael in the midbar. This big open field over here is not similar to the diglei midbar. Why not? Because it's not made lihilucha derabim. It's not a thoroughfare. It's not a place that's meant for the rabbim to travel. That's not what a Carmelis is. So the Chazal looked at a Carmelis and they said, we don't know what to do with it. We look at this big open area, right? It's not a Rishus HaYachid. It's not Mukaf Bechitzos. But it's not a Rishus Harabim. It's not a Mokum L'Hilach Harabim. What do we do with it? Midaraisa, it's a Mokum P'tur. So Midaraisa, you should be allowed to carry Dalet Amos in a Carmelis. Midaraisa, you should be allowed to transfer from a Rishus HaYachid to a Carmelis. Midaraisa, you should be allowed to transfer from a Rishus Harabim to a Carmelis. Midaraisa, you should be allowed to transfer from the Carmelis to a Rishus Harabim or to a Rishus HaYachid. Midaraisa, it should all be mutter, because Midaraisa, this area is really a Mokum P'tur. But the Chazal looked at it and they said, people are going to look at this area and they're not going to know what it is. So some people are going to look at it and they're going to say, well, it's not a Rishus Harabim. It's not meant Lihiluch Harabim. Lihiluch Harabim. It's not meant Lihiluch Harabim. Okay. So it's not a Rishus Harabim. Okay. So if it's not a Rishus Harabim, I guess I could transfer from it to a Rishus HaYachid. And Midaraisa you can. But now someone's going to do that. Someone's going to transfer from a Carmelis to a Rishus HaYachid. Someone else is going to look, and someone else is going to say, oh, wait a second, you're allowed to do that? What's he doing? It looks like he's transferring from a Rishus Harabim to a Rishus HaYachid. Why? Because to this guy, this place looks like a Rishus Harabim. Why does it look like a Rishus Harabim? It's not a Makom L'Hilach Harabim. Yeah, but it's not Mukaf Bechitzos, so it's not a Rishus HaYachid. So the first fellow says to himself, yeah, there's no reason why I can't pick up something over here and put it into a Rishus HaYachid. This is not a Rishus Harabim. It's not a Makom L'Hilach Harabim. And he's right. It's not a Makom L'Hilach Harabim. It's not a Rishus Harabim. It's really a Makom P'tur. B'deraisa, what he's doing is fine. But the next guy looks, and the next guy says, what's he doing? Looks to me like he's being moitzi from a Rishus Harabim to a Rishus HaYachid. Wait, why does he think that the Carmelis is a Rishus Harabim? Because it's not a Rishus HaYachid. It's not Mukaf Bechitzos. So he's going to think that it's a Rishus Harabim. So we're going to have all of these mistakes are going to creep up. So therefore, says the Mishnah Berurah, and therefore, Gazru alav Chachamim, the Chachamim would geyser on a Carmelis, Shaloi lahoitzi o lahachnis bimenu, that you can't bring in or bring out from it, Bein l'Rishus Harabim, whether you're taking from a Carmelis to a Rishus Harabim, you can't do that, because someone's going to look, and they're going to say the Carmelis is a Rishus HaYachid. Why? Because it's not a Rishus Harabim. Ubein l'Rishus HaYachid, you also can't transfer from a Carmelis to a Rishus HaYachid. Why? Because if someone sees you do that, they're going to say, oh, you're taking from a Rishus Harabim to a Rishus HaYachid. Why is it a Rishus Harabim? It's not a Makom Hilach Harabim. Yeah, but it's not a Rishus HaYachid. It's not Mukav Bechitzos. Kedei shelo yavayu lahatir af me Rishus HaYachid to Rishus Harabim. Chazal had to make this gzera to protect against people ending up doing mamish hoitzah da'araisa. Okay, so far we have over here in Sef Aleph, we have the Isurei Daraisa of being Moitzi Mirishus L'Rishus, and now we had the Issa D'Rabbanan of being Moitzi from a Carmelis to a Rishus Harabim or a Rishus HaYachid, or from a Rishus Harabim or a Rishus HaYachid to a Carmelis. Says the Mechaber Vayter. Ava Mokim P'tur, but when you have a real Mokim P'tur, So let's say the post that we kept on speaking about yesterday. You have this post that's more than 3 tfachim off the ground. It's not 4 by 4. It's not daled al daled. So it's not a mokum choshev. It's not bottled to the karka because it's more than 3 tfachim tall. It's not in Rishos HaYachid territory. And even if it was in Rishos HaYachid territory, it's not daled al daled. So what is it? It's a mokum ptur. It's a real mokum ptur. Says the Mechaber. When it comes to a mokum ptur of a mokum ptur, mutter lahaitzi ulahachnis mimenu l'Rishos HaYachid v'l'Rishos HaRabim umehem l'soichai. When you have a real mokum ptur, you're allowed to transfer from the mokum ptur either to a Rishos HaRabim or from the Rishos HaRabim to the mokum ptur. So I'll give you 2 very simple cases. You're out in the Rishos HaRabim, a real Midaraisa Rishos HaRabim, 16 amas wide, not roofed over, maybe it serves 600,000 people, it's a real Rishos HaRabim. And you come to a post, and this post is more than 3 tfachim tall, less than 10 tfachim tall, and it's not daled al daled, it's not 14 by 14, it's 10 by 10. So you have this little post in Rishos HaRabim. There's something on top of it. You're allowed to pick it up from the mokum ptur and put it down in the Rishos HaRabim. Or you're allowed to pick up something from the Rishos HaRabim and put it down on the mokum ptur. No problem. You're going from a Rishos HaRabim to a mokum ptur, from a mokum ptur to a Rishos HaRabim. That's fine. There's no problem in doing that. Similarly, let's say you're in a house. So you're in a Rishos HaYachid. And let's say outside of the house, there's a mokum ptur. There's a little platform outside of the house that you could reach from the front door or from a window. You could take something from the Rishos HaYachid and put it outside on the post because you're going from a Rishos HaYachid to a mokum ptur. If there's something on the post and you want to bring it into the house, you could extend your hand out, pick it up from the post, and bring it into the house because you're going from a mokum ptur to a Rishos HaYachid. That is all fine. Says the Mishnah Cotton Gimel, mutter lahaitzi ulahachnis v'huadin lahoishit v'lizraik. You could use all 4 forms of transport that the Mechaber spoke about. You could be mitzi, you could be machnis, you could be zayrik, you could be moishit. You're allowed to transfer from a mokum ptur to a Rishos HaRabim, from a Rishos HaRabim to a mokum ptur, from a mokum ptur to a Rishos HaYachid, from a Rishos HaYachid to a mokum ptur. Now's where we start having fun. Says the Mechaber 2 lines off the bottom. Aval, however, ha'omed b'Rishos HaYachid. Let's say somebody is in a Rishos HaYachid. Okay? U'moitzi oy machnis, and he wants to take something out, or he wants to bring something in. Oy moishit, by going out. Moitzi oy machnis is he's going to take something and walk with it out, or he's going to take something and walk with it in. Or he wants to extend his hand with something, or he wants to throw something. L'Rishos HaRabim, to a Rishos HaRabim, derech mokim ptur, through, via a mokim ptur, oy ipcha, or fakert, or the other way, chayiv, he would be chayiv, it would be an issa daraisa. What does this mean? Okay, so let me give you a very simple case first, based on everything that we learned yesterday. So you have a house. The house is on a street. The street is a real Rishos HaRabim, not our streets that are a Shilar, they are Carmelis, are Rishos HaRabim. No, you have a street that's on a bona fide Rishos HaRabim. It's 16 amas tall, it's not roofed over, it serves 600,000 people. There's no svekis on this street. This street is a real Rishos HaRabim. Your house opens up onto this street. Okay, you are in the house. You're in the Rishos HaYachid. Now, right outside your house, there is a mokum ptur. How would there be a mokum ptur right outside your house? The truth is, not so hard to imagine. Well, you know what? I was going to give you a simpler example first. Okay, so let me do the simple example first. Again, we're not changing anything. You have your house opens up onto the Rishos HaRabim. Your house is 3 stories tall. You go upstairs to the 3rd floor of your house, and you go to the window, and you open the window. Now, Rabbi Sai, let's remember, the avir of Rishos HaRabim, the airspace of Rishos HaRabim extends how high? Right, it only extends 10 tfachim high. So when you go upstairs to the 3rd floor of your house, and you open up the window, your window, outside your window, is what? It's over the Rishus Harabim, but the Rishus Harabim only goes up 10 tfachim from the ground level of the street of the Rishus Harabim. So outside your window is a mokim p'tur. So now, let's say you take something from inside the house, from the Rishus HaYachid, and you throw it outside. What happens? You made an akira in the Rishus HaYachid, you picked up something in the house, you threw it out the third floor window, you threw it into what? You threw it into a mokum p'tur. And then it went through the mokum p'tur, and it landed on the ground outside on the Rishus Harabim. And that's your hanacha. Your hanacha is on the ground of the Rishus Harabim. So what did you just do? You just did what the Mechaber explains over here in the case of Zoyrek. Look at it in the words of the Mechaber. Avla oimid b'Rishus HaYachid. Somebody who's standing in a Rishus HaYachid. You're inside your house, on the third floor of your house. Now let's skip a few words and go to V'Zoyrek. V'Zoyrek l'Rishus Harabim. And he picks up something and he throws it where? He's throwing it to the Rishus Harabim because it's going to land down on the ground. He's throwing it out the window and it's going to land on the ground of the Rishus Harabim. But he's doing it derech mokum p'tur. He's doing it via a mokum p'tur because he's throwing it out the window on the third floor, which is more than 10 tfachim removed off the ground of Rishus Harabim. So that airspace is mokum p'tur. What's the halacha, says the Mechaber? Chayiv. Iser daraisa. This would be chayiv. So that's one case, based on everything that we learned yesterday. Now I'll give you another case. Another case could be, you're in your house, you open up the front door. Outside your front door, you have a little platform. Now when I say a little platform, let's say the door to your house is a 36-inch door. So you could have a platform that's 36 inches wide. So that's more than dalet tfachim wide. You have a nice wide 36-inch platform outside your door. That platform is more than 3 tfachim high. So it's removed from the ground of Rishus Harabim. Your house is opening onto the Rishus Harabim, but between your door and the Rishus Harabim, there is this platform. This step or platform is more than 3 tfachim tall, so it's nafka miklal Rishus Harabim. It's not Rishus Harabim. It's more than dalet tfachim wide, but it's not 14 inches deep, so it's not dalet al dalet. So what is that surface? That surface is a classic mokum p'tur. It's more than 3 tfachim tall. It's not dalet al dalet. It's a mokum p'tur. So now let's read the Mechaber and visualize that example. Ha'oimid b'Rishus HaYachid. You're standing in the house, in the Rishus HaYachid. U'moitzi oimachnis oimoishit. And you go out, or you come in, or you extend your hand, lirishus harabim, to the rishus harabim, derech mokum p'tur. So you pick up something in the house, you made an akira in Rishus HaYachid, you step outside onto the platform, you're now standing on a mokum p'tur, and then you take another step without stopping, you take another step out to the Rishus Harabim, and now you put the chayfetz down. What did you just do? You made an akira in Rishus HaYachid. You went out onto a mokum p'tur, but you didn't stop on the mokum p'tur. You continued out to the Rishus Harabim, and you made a hanacha in the Rishus Harabim. Says the Mechaber, that is an Issa Daraisa. And the Mishnah is going to explain, why is it an Issa Daraisa? Because, what did you do? You made an akira in Rishus HaYachid. You made a hanacha in Rishus Harabim. The fact that in between your akira in Rishus HaYachid and your hanacha in Rishus Harabim, it happens to be that you walked through a mokum p'tur, I don't care. That doesn't affect anything. Now, if you would have stopped on the mokum p'tur, then it would only be an issa d'Rabbanan, because then you made an akira in the Rishus HaYachid, you stepped out onto the mokum p'tur, and you stopped. When you stopped, that constitutes a hanacha on the mokum p'tur. So now you closed out your act. You made an akira in Rishus HaYachid, you made a hanacha on a mokum p'tur. You're allowed to do that. Now when you start going again, you're making an akira on a mokum p'tur. You go out to Rishus Harabim, you put it down in Rishus Harabim, you made a hanacha in Rishus Harabim. That's a separate act. Really, midaraisa, what you just did is 100% mutter. Akira in Rishus HaYachid, hanocha on Makom P'tur. No problem. Akira on a Makom P'tur, hanocha in Rishus HaRabim. Also no problem. But it's also b'drabanan. Why is it also b'drabanan? Shelo yavel l'zalzel be'isurei Shabbos. You shouldn't come to be mezalzel. You shouldn't come to treat Isurei Shabbos lightly, because the bottom line is you're transferring something from the Rishus HaYachid to the Rishus HaRabim. So again, I don't want to confuse ourselves here. The halacha that the Mechaber just told me is an Issa D'Oraisa. The Issa D'Oraisa is you're standing in the house in the Rishus HaYachid, you make an Akira in the Rishus HaYachid, and you walk through the Makom P'tur without stopping, without making a Hanacha in the Makom P'tur. You pick up something on the third floor of your house, you make an Akira in the Rishus HaYachid, you throw it out the window, and it flies through the Makom P'tur without stopping. And then it goes down to the Rishus HaRabim and lands on the ground. Hanocha in Rishus HaRabim, that is an Issa D'Oraisa. Now let's take a look at the Mishnah Berurah, where the Mishnah Berurah is going to say a lot of what I just said. Says the Mishnah Berurah is cut and dalet. Aval ha'omed. When the Mechaber uses the words Aval ha'omed, somebody who is standing, what the Mechaber really wants to say is Shahaya oimed, he was standing. And then V'holach, he went, V'hoitzi, and he took something out, Oihichnis, or he brought something in, or Shenishar oimed, or maybe he stayed standing in the Rishus HaYachid where he is. Ela shahoshit, he just extended something out. Oizerik, or he threw something out. In any of these cases, says the Mishnah Berurah is cut in hay chayiv. This would be an Issa D'Oraisa. Explains the Mishnah Berurah why is this an Issa D'Oraisa. The kevan she'asa akira b'Rishus HaYachid v'hanacha b'Rishus HaRabim oyipcha. If you made an akira in the Rishus HaYachid and then you walked through the Makom P'tur without stopping, or you made an Akira in the Rishus HaYachid on the third floor, and you threw the ball out the window and let it fly through the Makom P'tur without stopping, or you picked up something in the Rishus HaRabim, and you made an Akira in the Rishus HaRabim, and then you stepped onto the Makom P'tur without stopping and walked through it into the Rishus HaYachid, or you picked up a ball outside in the Rishus HaRabim, and you threw it up through the Makom P'tur without stopping into the window and let it make a hanacha inside the Rishus HaYachid, lo yichpas lon ma shehever beintayim derech Makom P'tur. It doesn't matter to us that it went via a Makom P'tur without stopping. The bottom line is you made a hanacha, you made an Akira in a Rishus HaYachid, you made a hanacha in Rishus HaRabim. Or you made an Akira in Rishus HaRabim, and you made a Hanacha in Rishus HaYachid. And there was no Hanacha in between on the Makom P'tur. You just went through the Makom P'tur without a Hanacha. Therefore, this is an Issa D'Oraisa. And that's why the Mishnah Berurah points out now, V'davka, but this is only true, Shaloi Amad B'mkoim P'tur, where you never stopped in the Makom P'tur, or on the Makom P'tur. Aval Amad Ma'at if you would have made the Hakir in the Rishus HaYachid, if you picked up something in the Rishus HaYachid, you stepped outside onto the Makom P'tur and you stopped. You stepped out onto the Makom P'tur and you stopped on the Makom P'tur. And then you started going again and went out to the Rishus HaRabim, Potter. That would be Potter Aval Aser. That would be Issa D'Rabanan. Why? Kevan she'asa hanacha b'makom p'tur. If you made the Akira inside in the Rishus HaYachid in the house, you stepped outside onto the post, and you stopped, well then you made an Akira in Rishus HaYachid, you made a hanacha in the Makom P'tur. When you start going again, you made a new Akira on the Makom P'tur, and then you went out to the Rishus HaRabim and made a hanacha in the Rishus HaRabim. That's not an Issa D'Oraisa, there's no Issa D'Oraisa here. Nevertheless, says the Mishnah Berurah, Isur D'Rabbanan Ika Af Bazeh. But this would still be an Isur D'Rabbanan. Because the Chazal were geyser, Dilma Asi Akule. Maybe you'll come to be Mekel, Ula'afuke Lehedya, Me Rishus HaYachid, L'Rishus HaRabim. Yeah, it's true. If you stop in the middle, it's not an Issa D'Oraisa. But if we let you do that, then people are going to come to do it without stopping in the middle, which is an Issa D'Oraisa. So they made this Asur Midrabanan. The same halacha would apply. This is a little different case. Says the Mishnah Berurah, by the same logic, It's aser lahoitzi mitam zeh me rishus hayachid from a rishus hayachid limakom ptur to end up in a makom ptur derech rishus harabim going via rishus harabim. So this case is a little different. Your house opens up onto the rishus harabim. 5 feet away in the rishus harabim, there's a little post that's a makom ptur. So what you want to do is you want to pick up something inside in the Rishus HaYachid, make an akira in the Rishus HaYachid, walk out to the Rishus HaRabim without stopping, walk over to the Makom Ptur, and put something down on the Makom Ptur. Midaraisa, you didn't do anything wrong. You made an akira in Rishus HaYachid, you made a hanacha on a Makom Ptur. Midaraisa, there's no problem. But it's the same Issa D'Rabbanan. Afim Yizar Shalalamay B'Rishus HaRabim. Why is it the same as the Rabbanan? Because Chazal are afraid of the same thing. If we're going to allow you to make that akira in the Rishus HaYachid, walk through the Rishus HaRabim without stopping, and then make a hanacha on a makom ptur, you might come to stop in the middle. And if you stop in the middle in the Rishus HaRabim, you are just over on Isser Da'araisa. Okay, so we just had over here an Isser Da'araisa and an Isser D'Rabbanan. Just very quickly before we go weiter. The Issa Daraisa was given to us by the Mechaber. The Mechaber told me if I made an Akira in a Rishus HaYachid, and then I went out, but I went through a Makom Ptur, and then I went to a Rishus HaRabim, and I made a Hanacha. So again, Akira in the Rishus HaYachid, straight through the Makom Ptur, and then Hanacha in the Rishus HaRabim, that's an Issa Daraisa. So too, vice versa. If I make an akira in the Rishus HaRabim, I go straight through a makom ptur without stopping. I go into the Rishus HaYachid and I make a hanacha. It's a daraisa. Why? Because in the words of the Mishnah Berurah, ma'ich paslan. How does it affect us, the fact that you actually went through a makom ptur? There was no hanacha in the makom ptur, so there was an akira in one rishus, a hanacha in the other rishus. In the middle, you went through a makom ptur. That doesn't absolve you of anything. This would be an issa daraisa. Issa D'Rabbanan, says the Mishnah Berurah, if you did make a hanacha on the makom ptur, so you made an akira in the Rishus HaYachid, you stepped outside onto a makom ptur and you stopped. So now you made a hanacha on the makom ptur. Then you make a new akira on the makom ptur, go out to the Rishus HaRabim, make a hanacha. Midaraisa, you didn't do anything wrong, but that's an Issa D'Rabbanan. Again, to that backdrop, says the Mechaber now, v'chein. And similarly, and the Mishnah Berurah makes the point, he says, v'chein, remember, the Mechaber is coming off of the Issa Daraisa. The Mechaber didn't discuss the Issa D'Rabbanan, only the Mishnah Berurah did. But, says the Mechaber, v'chein, similarly, you should know that there's an Issa D'Rabbanan here as well, and essentially the Issa D'Rabbanan the Mechaber is now going to tell us about is the same as the Issa D'Rabbanan that we just had in the Mishnah Berurah. Says the Mechaber, v'chein, and similarly, La yamid adam al makom ptur. A person should not stand on a makom ptur. V'yikach chefetz miyad misha oimid b'Rishus HaRabim, and take something from somebody who's standing in the Rishus HaRabim. V'yitinenu lemisha oimid b'Rishus HaYachid, and act as a conduit and hand it off to somebody who's in the Rishus HaYachid. So let's analyze the case. Let's break down the case. Again, imagine you have a house that opens up onto a bona fide Rishus HaRabim. But between the entranceway of the house and the Rishus HaRabim, there is a post, which is a makom ptur. So now, you have one fellow, Ruvain, is standing outside in the Rishus HaRabim. Shimon is standing on the step. So he's standing on the makom ptur. Levi is inside his house. Okay, Ruvain in the Rishus HaRabim wants to get something to Levi inside the house. But what can he do? He can't take something from Rishus HaRabim and bring it into Rishus HaYachid. He also can't take something from Rishus HaRabim and hand it to somebody who's standing in the Rishus HaYachid, because that would also be Maitzi Merishus L'Rishus. So they come up with a cute chap. Ruvain picks up a chayfetz in Rishus HaRabim, where he's standing. He hands it to Shimon, who's standing on the makom ptur. What just happened? Ruvain made an akira in Rishus HaRabim, and when he handed it to Shimon, who's standing on the makom ptur, he made a hanacha on a makom ptur. Did Ruvain do anything wrong so far? No. Now Shimon, who's standing on the makom ptur, takes the chayfetz and hands it to Levi, who's standing inside the house. What did Levi do? Levi made an akira on a makom ptur. He's on a makom ptur. He takes something from a makom ptur and he hands it to Levi in the Rishus HaYachid and makes a hanacha by handing it to Levi in the Rishus HaYachid. He's making a hanacha in the Rishus HaYachid. All right. Nobody did any Yisurei Daraisa over here. But what was accomplished? What was accomplished was you used Shimon as a conduit in order to transfer something from Rishus HaRabim inside into Rishus HaYachid. Says the Mechaber, that is an Isser D'Rabbanan. And the Mechaber writes the Isser D'Rabbanan on the person who's standing on the Makom Ptur. That's who the Mechaber seems to be pinning the Isser D'Rabbanan on. Let's see the words again. The Chain, similarly, Lo Yamod Adam HaMakom Ptur, Shimon, our Shimon, a person should not stand on a Makom Ptur. V'yikach chefetz miyad misha omed b'Rishus HaRabim, and take something from Ruvain, who's standing in the Rishus HaRabim. So he's making an akira. He's making the akira. He's making, I don't know how I said it before, but Shimon, who's standing on the Makom Ptur, he's making an akira in the Rishus HaRabim, and he's standing on the Makom Ptur. So he takes it from the Rishus HaRabim, he brings it to himself on the Makom Ptur. That constitutes a hanocha on the Makom Ptur. And now v'yitinenu l'misha omed b'Rishus HaYachid, and now he hands it off to Levi, who's inside the Rishus HaYachid. Oy ipcha, or the other way around. He can't take it from Levi in the Rishus HaYachid and hand it off to Ruvain in the Rishus HaRabim, because that would be an Isser D'Rabbanan. Says the Mishnah Berurah, back on Kuf Tzadik Tesam and Beis, Mishnah Berurah is cut and vav. V'chein lo yamoid, says the Chavetz Chaim, hai v'chein lav dafka. This word v'chein is a little bit imprecise. The chiyuv aleka bazeh, because there's no Isser D'Oraisa over here. Why is there no Isser D'Oraisa? Explains the Chavetz Chaim in the brackets what we said. Because since our Shimon is standing on a Makom Ptur, miyad shehigia hachefetz negdoi, once he has the chefetz, nase kemoishe nechsham ma'at. That is similar to the case that we discussed in the Mishnah Berurah before, where somebody went and stepped onto the Makom Ptur and stopped there for a moment. So the same thing is happening here. When he accepts the chefetz, when he takes the chefetz onto the Makom Ptur, and he's standing still on the Makom Ptur, that equals a hanacha on the Makom Ptur. So you don't have any more Achiv D'Oraisa over here. The nakat v'chein mishum isura. When the Mechaber uses over here the word v'chein, he just means that just as the case that I gave you before is prohibited, this case is also prohibited. The original case of the Mechabers is an Isser D'Oraisa. This case of the Mechabers is an Isser D'Rabbanan, because there's a hanacha on the Makom Ptur in between the two Rishuyos. Mishum dal kol panim nasa al yadoi hoitza me Rishus HaYachid l'Rishus HaRabim v'asi le'akulei l'hoitzi me Rishus HaYachid l'Rishus HaRabim l'hedya. The reason this is an Isser D'Rabbanan is because the bottom line is you have used this person on the Makom Ptur to accomplish a transfer from a Rishus HaRabim to a Rishus HaYachid, or from a Rishus HaYachid to a Rishus HaRabim. It's true that there was a hanacha on a Makom Ptur in the middle, but this is an Isser D'Rabbanan, because people are going to end up being mekel, and they're going to end up going straight from Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaRabim, or straight from Rishus HaRabim to Rishus HaYachid. Ois Katan Zayin, in the Mechaber's case, v'yikach chefetz miyad. In the Mechaber's case, Shimon, the middle guy on the Makom Ptur, is taking a chefetz from somebody in the Rishus HaRabim, handing it to somebody in the Rishus HaYachid. Says the Mishnah Berurah, there's an equal case to this. V'hu adin, likach mikarka Rishus HaYachid, v'lite lekarka Rishus HaRabim. Says the Mishnah Berurah, you don't need three people here. The same case would be to leave Shimon on the Makom Ptur, forget about Ruvain in the Rishus HaRabim, forget about Levi in the Rishus HaYachid. Shimon is standing on the Makom Ptur. He's not allowed to go ahead, reach into the Rishus HaYachid, pick up something from the Rishus HaYachid, that's an akira in Rishus HaYachid, bring it to himself on the Makom Ptur, that's a hanocha on the Makom Ptur, and then put it down on the ground in the Rishus HaRabim. Again, he's acting as a conduit from one Rishus to the other Rishus, albeit with a hanacha on a Makom Ptur in the middle. No Isser D'Oraisa, but it is an Isser D'Rabbanan. Weiter. Says the Mechaber near the end of the top line, Reish Amud Aleph. Ulahachlif derech mokim ptur b'reshuyos derabanan. To do this kind of transferring, a similar type of transferring from one reshus to another reshus, where there's only an issa derabanan involved. The cases that we were just talking about, you're playing with Isurei Daraisa, because you've got a Rishus HaYachid, you've got a Rishus HaRabim. Now, going from a Rishus HaYachid to a Rishus HaRabim, going from a Rishus HaRabim to a Rishus HaYachid is an Issa Daraisa. The scenario that we gave is only an Issa Darabanan. You're using the guy in the middle on a Makom P'tur, and he's making a Hanach on a Makom P'tur. But you're playing with Isurei Daraisa. Says the Mechaber, what if you're not playing with Isurei Daraisa? What if you take out one of the Rishuyos and you replace it with a Carmelis? Let's take a look here. Let's first see what the Mechaber said. The Mechaber says, "Ulahachlif derech mokim p'tur b'reshuyos derabanan," to do such a transfer between Rishuyos, where one of the Rishuyos is only a Carmelis, so now you're only at risk of an Issa Derabanan, yesh oisrim v'yesh matirim. Now you have a machlokes rishonim whether or not this is mutter or aser. Let's take a look at the Mishnah Berurah, where he will do a very nice job of painting the scenario for us. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Katnaches ulahachlif. Ritzon Eloymar, what the Mechaber wants to say is, sha'oimed al makom p'tur. Again, our friend Shimon is standing on the step. He's standing on the makom p'tur. The noitel miyad misha oimid b'rishus hayachid, and he's taking something from Levi, who's in the house. So far it's the same. There's the house, Levi is in the house, there's the makom p'tur outside the door, Shimon is standing on the makom p'tur, Shimon takes something from Levi. So that's akira in rishus hayachid, hanacha on the makom p'tur, because he's standing on the makom p'tur. But now on the other side there's no rishus harabim. On the other side there's a Carmelis. One of our streets that we paskin is a Carmelis. So, well, Mishnah Berurah not, but okay, a street that's not 16 amos wide, whatever it is, it's a Carmelis. So there's a house, a makom p'tur, and then a Carmelis. The noisin liyada oimid b'Carmelis. And now Shimon is going to hand it off to somebody not in a Rishus HaRabim, but in a Carmelis. Or the other way around. Shimon is standing on the makom p'tur. To his left is a Carmelis. He takes something from Ruvain in the Carmelis. He hands it off to Levi in the Rishus HaYachid. So now, ultimately, you're not accomplishing a transfer between Rishuyos Daraisa. Now you're accomplishing a transfer between a Rishus Darabanan, a Carmelis, and a Rishus Daraisa, a Rishus HaYachid. Okay, so you're not playing with Isurei Daraisa here. At worst, you're playing with Isurei Darabanan. Says the Mechaber, this would be a machlokes rishonim. But continues the Mishnah Berurah first. V'huadin, the same halacha would apply. Im noitel chayfetz me rishus hayachid. Let's say somebody takes something out of rishus hayachid, umenichai b'makom p'tur, and he puts it down on a makom p'tur. So let's take Shimon out of the case. Let's just have Levi inside the house. Levi wants to get something out of his house to the Carmelis. In between his house and the Carmelis, there's a makom p'tur. You're not allowed to take something from a house to a Carmelis, even though a Carmelis is only Rishus Derabanan, right? But we learned that at the beginning of today's shir. Issa Derabanan to transfer from a Rishus HaYachid to a Carmelis, right? Levi wants to get something out to the Carmelis. He knows it's an Issa Derabanan. So he comes up with a cute chap. I'll take it out of the house. I'll make an akira in the house. I'll put it down outside on the post, which is a makom p'tur, and I'll put it there. Okay. Akira from Rishus HaYachid, hanacha on a makom p'tur. Now I'll pick it up from the makom p'tur, and I'll put it outside into the Carmelis. Are you allowed to do that? Says the Mechaber, that is a machlokes rishonim. V'hu adinim noitel chayvetz me Rishus HaYachid umenicha b'makom p'tur. V'choyzer v'noitel b'makom p'tur. Then you pick it up from the makom p'tur umenicha b'Carmelis, and you put it in the Carmelis. Ois cotton tes yesh oisrim. There's a shita in the rishonim. This is the shita of the Rosh that says that this is aser. Svir lahu de'ein lechalik ben Rishuyos Daraisa l'Rishuyos Derabanan l'inyan zeh. The Rosh holds the same way there's an Issa Derabanan to affect the transfer between two Rishuyos Daraisa via a stop on a makom p'tur. There's also a gzeira that you're not allowed to effect a transfer from a Rishus Daraisa to a Carmelis via a stop on a Mokum Tur. Aber is cutting yud v'yesh matirim. There are those who say it's mutter. This is the shita of, I don't remember, the Rif. This is the shita of the Rif, says the Berurah. V'yesh matirim, svira lahu. These Rishonim hold the dafka b'rishuyos daraisa gazrinan. We only make the gzeira when you're playing with fire. We only make the gzeira when there's a risk of an issa daraisa. Masha ain't ken b'rishuyos darabanan to have gzeira l'gzeira. What are you afraid of over here? You're going to go ahead and you're going to say, you're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to pick up something in Rishus HaYachid, put it on a Mokum P'tur, and then pick it up from a Mokum P'tur and put it down in a Carmelis. Why not? Because we're afraid that you'll skip the Mokum P'tur in the middle. What does that mean? We're afraid that you're going to go straight from the Rishus HaYachid to the Carmelis. Well, if you go straight from the Rishus HaYachid to the Carmelis, what did you do? You didn't do an Issa D'Oraisa, you did an Issa D'Rabanan. Why is that, Osir? Because we're afraid that if you go from a Rishus HaYachid to a Carmelis, you might end up going from a Rishus HaYachid to a Rishus HaRabim. So this is a classic case of a double gzeira. It's a gzeira l'gzeira. We're asering going from a Rishus HaYachid, stopping on a Mokum P'tur, and then going to a Carmelis. We want to aser that, because if we allow you to do that, you might come to go from the Rishus HaYachid straight to the Carmelis, which we aser because we're afraid that if we let you go from a Rishus HaYachid straight to a Carmelis, you might go from a Rishus HaYachid straight to a Rishus HaRabim. So that's a double gzeira. Gzeira l'gzeira. The Rif holds, this is a classic gzeira l'gzeira. We don't make a gzeira l'gzeira. Okay, we're going weiter, but Rabbi say we finished the hard part of the shir. Says the Mechaber Sif Beis, 2 lines off the bottom. Min HaTorah ein chayev ele b'ma'avir arba amos b'rishus harabim. Till now, we were talking about the Yisad Daraisa of being moitzi me rishus l'rishus, transferring something from one rishus to another. Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaRabim, Rishus HaRabim to Rishus HaYachid. In the middle, we dealt with the Rabbanans, Carmelis. Now, we're talking about the Isser, not of hoitzah me rishus l'rishus, but the Yisad Daraisa of being mavir something dalat amos in Rishus HaRabim. You're not allowed to go out to a real Rishus HaRabim, pick up something at point A, transport it 4 amos, and then put it down at point B. So you made an akira in Rishus HaRabim at point A, you transported it 4 amos or more, and then you made a hanacha in Rishus HaRabim at point B. That's an Issa Daraisa. Says the Mechaber ben HaTorah ein chayev ele b'ma'avir arba amos b'Rishus HaRabim. The Issa Daraisa is only in Rishus HaRabim. V'chachamim asru lahaver arba amos b'Carmelis. The Chazal extended this Isser midrabanan to a Carmelis, because again, you have a Carmelis, you have the rolling plains of grain. It feels like a Rishus HaRabim. It's not a Rishus HaYachid, it's not Mukaf Mechitzos. It's not a Rishus HaRabim because it's not a Mokum Hiluch HaRabim. But it certainly feels more Rishus HaRabim-like than Rishus HaYachid-like. It's not a private domain. It's not walled in. If we're going to allow you to transport something Dalet Amos in a Carmelis, you might come to transport something Dalet Amos in a Rishus HaRabim. So that is an Issa D'Rabbanan. Continues the Mechaber, V'yam ubika, an ocean, a river, a sea, or a bika, the rolling plains of grain, Trey Gavni Carmelis Dinu. They are 2 different types of Carmelis, right? There's definitely a big difference between a yam, a waterway, and a bika, right? But they're both Carmelisin. Says the Mechaber, Umutter l'taltal mizu l'zu toich arba amos. So, you're not allowed to be mavir dalet amos in a Carmelis. So if you're outside in the rolling plains of grain, you can't pick up something, transport it dalet amos, and put it down. That would be an Issa D'Rabbanan. When you're on the water, you're not allowed to pick up something transported dalet amos on the water and put it down, right? But are you allowed to transport something from one variety of Carmelis to another variety of Carmelis? Could you pick up something in the water and then come out of the water into a bika and put it down if you're not going more than 4 amos? So you're 2 amos in the water. You pick up something in the water, you take it out of the water into the bika for 2 amos, and now put it down. So you didn't go dalet amos. You went a little bit less than dalet amos. but you went from one variety of carmelis, from the water, to a different variety of carmelis, to the bika. Is that problematic? Do we say the same way midaraisa, you can't go from one rishus, from rishus hayachid, to another rishus harabim? Maybe you're not allowed to go from one variety carmelis to another variety of carmelis? Says the Mechaber, that's not a problem. That is mutter. Says the Mishnah, cutting it off. In order for being maver dal ramas in rishus harabim to be an issa daraisa, you need an akira. You need to pick up something at point A, and you need a hanacha. You need to put it down at point B. This is derabanan ikar al yedei akira o hanacha levad. While the issa daraisa has to include both an akira and a hanacha, there's an issa derabanan even if you do one. So if you pick up something in rishus harabim and you walk more than 4 amas, even though you didn't put it down yet, you didn't make a hanacha, you're already over in issa derabanan. Or the other way is also true. If you make a hanacha without making an akira, how does that happen? You pick up something in a different type of rishus. Let's say you did it by mistake. You picked up something in rishus hayachid, and you went out to the rishus harabim, and now you walk 4 amas in the rishus harabim. You never made an akira, but you're transporting something in the rishus harabim. If you put it down now, so you only made a hanacha, you didn't make an akira in rishus harabim, but you're making a hanacha in rishus harabim after having transported an item 4 amas. That Rabbi says this is the Rabbanon. The reason why there's an issa Rabbanon of being maver dalat amas in a carmelis is because it's similar to rishus harabim, the chanal, like we learned earlier. You have a yam and a bikar, 2 different varieties of a carmelis. You're allowed to transport from one to the other. What the Mechaber wants to tell you is even though these are 2 different varieties of carmelis, you're allowed to transfer from one to the other. We don't make a gzera and say the same way you're not allowed to transfer from one type of rishus daraisa to another type of rishus daraisa, you're also not allowed to transport from one variety of carmelis or rishus darabanan to a different variety of carmelis or rishus darabanan. Now we go to Sif Gimel, says the Mechaber. Karpef. So now we are getting introduced to the world of a karpef. What's a karpef? Says here in the parentheses, Pirish, Mokaim, an area, Shemukaf mechitzais, that is surrounded by mechitzais, Baloi kiroi, but it's not roofed over, Kemoi chotzer, like a big courtyard, a big chotzer. How big is this karpef? Yoiser mi beis sasayim, it's bigger than 5,000 square amas. A beis saw is 2,500 square amas. Beis sasayim, plural, is 5,000 square amas. So you have an area that is 5,000 square amas or larger. And it's walled in, Rabbi Say. It's mukaf mechitzais. So what is this? Midaraisa, this is a rishus hayachid. You have an area that is fenced in, walled in, mukaf mechitzais, by mechitzais that are 10 tfachim or taller. So this is a bona fide rishus hayachid midaraisa. Problem is it's very big. That's one problem. It's very big. It's beis sasayim. It's 5,000 square amas or larger. That's one problem. The other problem is shaloi hukaf ledira. It's walled in, but it wasn't walled in for residential purposes. We'll discuss that more later on. It wasn't walled in so that people could live in it. It was walled in so it could be a garden. It was walled in maybe so it could be a storage area. But it wasn't mukaf ledira. Both of these factors make this area less rishus hayachid-like. Remember, the rolling plains of grain should really be a makom p'tur, right? But they feel like a rishus harabim. So Chazal turned it into a carmelis. This karpef that is yosim beis sasayim, shaloi hukaf ledira, midaraisa it's a rishus hayachid. But it doesn't feel like a rishus hayachid. It feels very rishus harabim-like. Doesn't feel like a private domain. It's big, and it's not residential. It's a park. It feels more like a rishus harabim. Therefore, Chazal made a gzera. Asru chacham lo taltal boy eletoich arba amos. What's the gzera that they made? In a Rishus HaYachid, you're allowed to carry as far as you want. You're allowed to pick up something in a Rishus HaYachid and carry it 20 amas. Not a problem. But if you have a karpef that's bigger than a Beis Hasayim, that's not hukuf ledira, you're not allowed to carry dalet amas inside that karpef. But even though we're making this Rishus HaYachid daraisa a little bit Carmelis-like, right? You're not allowed to carry dalet amas in the Carmelis. We're saying you're not allowed to carry dalet amas in this Rishus HaYachid, this karpef shaloi hukuf ledira that's bigger than a Beis Hasayim. It's not fully a Carmelis. In what way? Says the Mechaber, Umutter lahoitzi mimenu lekarmelis acher kegoin bika ha'iveres lefanov. You're allowed to transfer from this karpef. You're allowed to transfer from it to another Carmelis. So let's visualize this. You have a big field that's a Carmelis, rolling plains of grain, right? I'm going to become renowned for that. You have that big open Carmelis, and inside it, you have a karpef that's a Beis Hasayim, shaloi hukuf ledira. All right, essentially, what do you have here? The karpef midaraisa is a Rishus HaYachid. The Carmelis outside is a Carmelis. All right. Are you allowed to take something from a Rishus HaYachid to a Carmelis? No, you're not. Okay. Are you allowed to take something from a Carmelis to a Carmelis? Yes, you are. What's the status of this karpef? Well, midaraisa, it's a Rishus HaYachid. So really, you shouldn't be allowed to take anything from this karpef outside to the Carmelis. Outside. And we're making this karpef, though, a little bit like a Carmelis. How are we making it like a Carmelis? You're not allowed to carry dalet amas inside it. But you are allowed to take something from it out to the bika, to the Carmelis. Explains the Mishnah Berurah, says the Mishnah Berurah is cutting your dalet. This karpef is yosim Beis Hasayim, it's more than 5,000 square amas. V'sher Beis Hasayim, the measurement of a Beis Hasayim, of ula kamam b'sibit shin nun ches, Sefalef is discussed in shin nun ches, shehu shivim amma v'arba tfachim, it's 70 amas and 4 tfachim, which is 70 and 2/3 amas. Al shivim amma v'arba tfachim b'ribua, it is squared. It's 70 and 2/3 by 70 and 2/3, which equals almost exactly 5,000 square amas. Ois katan tesvav, it is loy hukaf ledira. It was not enclosed for residential purposes. Kigoin, for example, says the Mishnah Berurah, shayadaita lintaya oilizraya ukahai gavno. A person fenced it in because he wants to plant over there. He wants to plant trees. He wants to make a little apple orchard. Or he wants to plant grain. He wants to make a garden, a vegetable garden. That's why he fenced it in. Ukai gavna. The kamavur lekamam b'simin shin nun ches. Ois katan tezayin asru chachamim. The chachamim said you're not allowed to carry dalet amas in this karpef. Why? Shekeven shu gadol kolkach, because since it's so big, and it's not hukuf ledira, it doesn't feel like a Rishus HaYachid. Asi lemechlaf b'Rishus HaRabim. Somebody might mistake it for a Rishus HaRabim. And what's going to happen? Somebody's going to carry inside this karpef, because he's going to say, what do you mean? Midaraisa. It's mukaf bechitzis. It's a Rishus HaYachid. Somebody else is going to see him carrying. He's going to look at the karpef. He's going to say, that karpef, I don't know, it looks like a Rishus HaRabim to me. So you're allowed to carry dalet amas in Rishus HaRabim. So it's going to cause errors. Vasu chachamim kekarmelis. So the chachamim gave it that din of a Carmelis, that you're not allowed to be maver dalet amas inside the karpef. But you're allowed to take something from inside this karpef and take it out to a Carmelis, which is a pella, because midaraisa this karpef is a Rishus HaYachid. So we're allowing you to take something from what is a Rishus HaYachid and transfer it to a Carmelis. Once we gave the karpef the din of a Carmelis and said that you can't be maver dalet amas inside it, we also allowed you to now transfer from this karpef to another Carmelis, even though really you're going from a Rishus HaYachid to a Carmelis. And the Mishnah Berurah explains why. After min HaTorah hu Rishus HaYachid l'chol davar. Even though really this karpef is a bona fide Rishus HaYachid, kevin sheyesh lo mechitzos, since it's mukaf mechitzos, v'hazoyrik mitoichei l'Rishus HaRabim chayiv. If you would pick up something inside this karpef and throw it over the fence to a Rishus HaRabim, it would be an daraisa. You're going from a Rishus HaYachid to a Rishus HaRabim. And really you're not allowed to transport something from a Rishos HaYachid to a Carmelis. So we've got this karpef, right? Let's imagine this. You got the karpef. On one side of the karpef, there's a bika, there's a Carmelis. On the other side of the karpef, there's a Rishos HaRabim. If you pick up a ball inside the karpef and you throw it out to the Rishos HaRabim on one side, you just did it as a daraisa. You went from a Rishos HaYachid to a Rishos HaRabim. Okay, so that means that the karpef is a bona fide Rishos HaYachid. All right, so now I'm going to go to the other side of the karpef. Could I take something from the karpef and throw it out to the Carmelis? No, you're going from a Rishos HaYachid to a Carmelis. Yet the Machaber is telling me that's mutter. You're allowed to go from the karpef to the Carmelis. Why? Says the Mishnah Berurah, Mikamakam kan hitiru. Over here, Chazal will matter you to do that. Why? She'im nesar zeh. Because if we're going to say that it's also to do it, what is that going to equal in people's minds? Yizbaru, people are going to think, Shehu Rishos HaYachid Gomor, they're going to think, oh, if you're not allowed to go from the karpef to the Carmelis, that means it really is a Rishos HaYachid in every sense of the word. The Ein Shem Carmelis Alav Klal. They're going to forget that the karpef has any angle of a Carmelis. And therefore what? Then they're going to be Mavid Dalan Amis within the karpef. Right? Then people who are going to see them being Mavid Dalan Amis in the karpef are going to make a mistake, and they're going to think that the karpef is a Rishos HaRabim, and they're going to come to be Mavid Dalan Amis in Rishos HaRabim. Ki doim is ektzas l'Rishos HaRabim, kevi chu gadol v'lehukav l'dira. V'alkein nafto alav chachamim din shar kamelis l'inyin zeh, shemutar l'hoitzi mimenu l'kamelis acher, ki goim bika v'kayoytze b'zeh. So to wrap it up, and we're going to stop over here, but let's just wrap up this last halacha. You have a karpef that's bigger than a Beis Hasayim. It's 5,000 square amas or larger. It is mukaf. It's surrounded with mechitzas, but it's not hukaf l'dira. Midaraisa, what is it? It's a Rishos HaYachid. Okay. So if it's a Rishos HaYachid, you're not allowed to transfer from it to a Rishos HaRabim. You're not allowed to transfer from a Rishos HaRabim to it. You're not allowed to transfer from it to a Carmelis. You're not allowed to transfer from the Carmelis to it. Are you allowed to be Mavir Dalet Amis inside it? Yes, it's a Rishos HaYachid. Why not? But the Chazal came and they made a Gzeira. Okay, what's the Gzeira that they made? They said you're not allowed to be Mavir Dalet Amis inside this karpef. Why did they make that Gzeira? They made that Gzeira because they were afraid. This karpef, it looks and smells like a Rishos HaRabim. If we're going to allow somebody to be Mavir Dalet Amis inside the karpef, they're going to come to be Mavir Dalet Amis in the Rishos HaRabim. Okay, very good Gzeira. Okay. Are you allowed to pick up something in the karpef and take it out to a Carmelis? Yes, you are. Why? Why on earth? You're going from a Rishos HaYachid to a Carmelis. Why are you allowed to do that? Oh, the answer is because what are we going to do? We're going to say that you're not allowed to? Now remember, it's only an Issa D'Rabbanan to do it, right? So we're dealing with Issa D'Rabbanan. If we're going to say that you're not allowed to go from this Rishos HaYachid, this karpef, out to the Carmelis, what are people going to say? People are going to say, oh, the reason you're not allowed to do it is because the karpef is a real Rishos HaYachid. Okay, if the karpef is a real Rishos HaYachid, then they're going to forget the Gzeira D'Rabbanan that says that you're not allowed to be Mavir Dalet Amis in the karpef. And they're going to be Mavir Dalet Amis inside the karpef. Someone's going to see them being Mavir Dalet Amis in the karpef. Our original problem is going to come back. They're going to come to be Mavir Dalet Amis in a Rishos HaRabim. Thank you so much for joining me for limud HaTorah. Exclusive limud HaTorah should be making against Klal Yisrael. The Ron Hashem should send Yeshua's refuahs parnas and shadukam to all those in need. We should be zeicher to see the Bias called Tzedek Be'evi Amen Amen. And we will continue next time with the words of the Ramah on the bottom line of Reish Amid Aleph. Be well.